You're welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News and the special programming on the 10th anniversary of the abduction of the Chibok girls. As we stay with this very important matter, we're now being joined by yet another strong voice in the hashtag Bring Back Our Girls. Ayo Obe, a lawyer and human rights activist. Good to see you. Good to have you join us in the studio this morning, madam. Good to have you around.
Good morning. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. I mean, you were telling us, behind the camera about, how you got involved with the Bring Back Our Girls movement and how you've been meeting, as it were, almost every Saturday. It's been 10 years. What sort of thoughts are going through your mind, given that the best that we're hearing from Borno State as of today is that we will still try and do our best to bring back the remaining girls? What are your thoughts, and how do you think that we are fared as a nation in dealing with this issue 10 years after?
I think really that my first thought is 10 years is too long. 10 years is way too long. I mean, when we started in this movement, we used to encourage ourselves by comparing this mass abduction to one of the mass abductions that had taken place in Uganda, where the Lord's Resistance Army kidnapped a huge number of girls. And we used to encourage ourselves. We would say, well, after all, the last of those girls that was abducted, it took 10 years before the last of them came back. And so we would encourage ourselves and say, we're not yet 10 years, and yet here we are, 10 years. So it's obviously too long. And you've heard from Dr. Aisha Mohammed Oyebode explaining what that means, particularly at this period in the lives of young girls. People like me joined because when we heard of the abduction, and particularly coming on the back of the other assaults on education in the Northeast, and somebody like me who is a big believer in Nigeria and Nigerian unity, I felt that this assault on the educational outlook for young people in the North was going to be a big driver of national disunity. You know how we are in the South. We think that everybody in the North doesn't have an education or is there for quota or one thing or the other. And that by making it difficult or making it dangerous for children to be in school, we were effectively making it something that would end up depriving children of their education and continuing to keep that gap, that educational gap, which, as I said, to me is a big driver of national disunity. So people like me, we say, well, okay, if they say we should, after 2 weeks, we say, government was even pretending that nothing has happened. We say, So we turned up for the big demonstration to march to the Lagos state government, and, from the roundabout at Allen Avenue up to Alausa. It was a march. And then after that, that in Abuja they were meeting every day, but us in Lagos, we can't be doing every day, go for sure. So we said, okay, let us make it every Saturday we will be there. And at first we were meeting on the Outer Ring Road, but eventually we converged at the Falomo roundabout. And that's why, if you go to Falomo roundabout, you'll see that the mural on the pillars is to represent the Chibok girls and the forest to which they were originally taken. Is that the
Polyalakija thing?
Yes, the Polyalakija murals. It's because we were meeting there, and she also wanted to make her own contribution to keeping the memory, to keeping the issue of these girls alive. And the Chibok girls are not unique. We have to understand that, but because we knew the numbers, we knew the names, and we had some of the pictures, we felt that these Chibok girls will stand in the gap for all the other children in Nigeria who are being deprived of their education in this way. And of course, because they cannot be there, we in the movement have to stand in the gap for them and really try and keep the issue alive. I appreciate, as you said, that it's died down. I mean, there are some days when, especially if we're having an election, and there's no movement. Because I'm within walking distance of Falmouth, I can still walk there. I might be the only person there, maybe with my dog, to stand in the gap for the Chibok girls. But I think it's, I don't know whether it's now just a matter of bloody-mindedness to say that, I'm sorry, we're not going away. You know, our chance is that when will we stop? And the answer is not until our girls are back and alive. And so I think it is a matter of accountability. There's been this, I mean, when it started, it was really, we're expecting the Jonathan administration, you know, bring back our girls. It's not complicated. And then I remember when Malala Yousafzai came to celebrate or mark her birthday in Nigeria because of the Chibok girls. And I remember feeling really bad that it was as if her presence in Nigeria was seen more as a photo opportunity than a wake-up call. So I remember happened to be in Abuja and coming out of the entrance to the hotel I was in, and the newspaper was there with my president standing next to Malala Yousafzai, and he was grinning from ear to ear. I just thought, this is just not it. So it became a political issue. It shouldn't have been, but it became a political issue. And of course, the opposition at that time, the All Progressives Congress, made it a political issue. And it's also a reality that some of the founding participants or conveners of the Bring Back Our Girls movement, such as Hadiza Bala Usman, were already members of a political party. And so they also, so it became that way, and they went to Borno State to show we're not afraid to go there. But, and when President Buhari came to power, again, we used to console ourselves that he said that we cannot call Boko Haram defeated until we have returned every one of the Chibok girls. So he said, the president has said, he has promised. He's not like his predecessor who woke up late to say, oh, really, there are Chibok girls, we have to. So we were thinking, yes, this is a solid, bankable promise from the president of Nigeria. And I would say he did his best. He brought back 23 or 25. He brought back 82. And, you know, we are very grateful. We're very happy that those ones have been taken out of the hands of the kidnappers. But we are Oliver Twist, especially when we know that there's more. We want more. We want them all. And on top of that, you then had this tragedy of Dachi. I mean, if you see the infographic in some of today's papers, it will show you what the situation is with regard to abductions, particularly, and it's not just that we don't have kidnapping and, you know, the criminal enterprise of kidnapping, but the actual criminal enterprise of kidnapping and assaulting children in their schools. I mean, I don't know, you know that in the United States they have they have school shootings. It's a common thing. And we, from the outside, we look and say, that's so obvious. Why don't they just deal with their gun problem? And it's very easy to be outside and to comment and criticize. But at least every school in the United States has a protocol. What they do if a school shooter comes into the school. Now, in Nigeria, not so much. We may not have school shooters, but we have school abductions. What is the protocol beyond running around like headless chickens? What is the protocol? Why is it that when children are, like this recent one that happened in Kaduna, thank God children have been returned. But we were told that 200 and something had been taken. Of course, when they came back and they said it's 170 something, and people were saying, but what about this? I said, well, if parents are missing their children, we will hear from them. But what it showed was that we don't even have the protocol of access. And that's why the Chibok girls were so unique, because we knew the numbers. Even up till now, with a mass kidnapping like that arises, and we cannot say, this is the number of children, these are their names, these are their identities, if you see them anywhere, because we know what it means to leave children in the hands of kidnappers for even one day. You remember when a Niger State commissioner was kidnapped, and he talked about how he was staying under the rain, and it was cold and in the open and so on, and he was released after about 2 or 3 days. And then you think about children. I mean, I appreciate everything that the Nigerian armed forces and the security agencies do, but I always feel that it's slow. Hot pursuit should be hot. You should be hot pursuit. You should not be 2 or even 1 day in the hands of kidnappers is a trauma. Not to talk of, and we're talking about 10 years.
Thank you very much for unpacking all of that. You know, the advocacy, Bring Back Our Girls, was a huge movement. It was very loud. It gained international attention. We saw Michelle Obama. We saw all the actors at Cannes Film Festival. But what do you make of, you know, the level of transparency by the government at this moment? I mean, they have said that, you know, 187 of them have been returned so far. They still have about 89 of our children out there. I believe that there was a panel that was set up after this incident occurred to investigate the incident, and I'm not sure we have, you know, detailed reports on that
we have
issue.
to thank the Maritla Mohammed Foundation because last year we actually, the group of us who meet at Falama, we resolved that we were going to write to the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Dr. Betta Edu, to say to her, look, you know, we have, it's 10 years, or we're getting to 10 years. And what we want to know is, what is the situation? What are the numbers? Who are those who escaped in the course of the kidnapping? Who have been returned as a result of, who escaped because the army cleared out Boko Haram? Let's have some actual data, and then we also want to know from you, what is it that you are doing with regard to these children? How are you rehabilitating them? Because we don't just say bring them back in the body, we say bring them back in every way that they had been taken away, physically, socially, mentally, emotionally, culturally, educationally, economically. There are so many ways in which, so we wanted to have a report, but unfortunately our letter to the to the minister is still kind of, you know, in cyberspace, so it hasn't landed because the minister herself is also was under. But then we still have the Ministry of Women Affairs. The reason why perhaps we didn't, because we one of our participants at the at Falamo is the Minister of Finance, Wale Edu. And he had also participated even since he became a minister to come and you know, to still show that we are still here. And he always used to advise us, look, get people in government to be interested in this matter. And so it's not that we don't think that they're interested, but we did notice that when the Buhari administration was not able to return everybody, it now became a matter of, can we not talk about this? Can we sweep it under? Can we discuss something else, please? It became a matter of embarrassment. And for me, yes, it is embarrassing. Yeah. It's a matter of shame, actually. But, you know, sometimes you have to wear the shame until you are ready to remove it. And I think that our government should not pretend that the matter is no longer a matter. It is a matter, and the way to deal with it is to bring back our girls, or to account, because it's a matter of accountability. Account for the lives of these children who were in the hands of the government. Now, I appreciate it was the state government, the vice president should be, in fact, he should be,
He was the governor when.
Yeah, I mean, he should be the one, and I always want to believe maybe something is going on behind the scenes and so on, but we don't see it. We are not seeing it, and on the contrary, we are hearing complaints and real distress from the parents of these Chibok girls that have been returned about how they're being kept away from their children. We're hearing distress again of the parents within the community about how they are being, well, the government is looking after you, you sold your daughters, you know, and they're feeling that their daughters are being sacrificed on the altar of making peace or coming to accommodation with Boko Haram. I appreciate that many of the members of Boko Haram are themselves victims of this kidnapping, but that only tells us and underlines for us how dangerous it is to leave children in the hands of these terrorists. I mean, the reason why so many of them were able to escape during the course of the kidnapping was because some of the people who were kidnapping them were their fellow Chibokians, and they were saying, you better get away from here now, otherwise if you don't get away from your life will not be. So they helped them, and then when it was realized that people are jumping out of the back, then, that was the end of that. But at least 57 of them were able to get away. But we recognize that, yes. So I'm not one of those who said, repentant terrorists, and because I believe that some of them are repentant. Some of them do want to get out of that life. And quite frankly, every morning I pray that they want to get out of it. They should look at their lives and see, I have to inflict pain and suffering and harm and even death on innocent fellow human beings. I don't want to live like this anymore. So yes, I want them to repent and to come out of it. But at the end of the day, keeping children away from their own parents, I don't see that as the way to go. Every child is entitled to their support system. And I remember when I was the president's daughter or somebody who was getting married, and it was a very happy occasion, and we all looked. And there's more than one president, I think, who's married. People said that, you see, that is how a marriage occurs. The families come together. They know each other. The parents know the husband, they know the daughter, and everybody, there's a support system for those who are entering into that marriage. Not this kind of forced thing. It may mature into a marriage, but don't leave it and say that, well, that's how it is and that's what we have to accept. Yeah. We don't accept it.
I want to ask, because you have consistently been a part of this movement for 10 years, and it must have struck an emotional chord with you personally. So I want to ask, really, what keeps you going? And you've spoken about the abduction of other children. Earlier we said it's about 2,190 children that have been kidnapped since the Chibok girls kidnapped. And if there are any particular stories or any particular girls who really stick with you emotionally, and if you feel that the government, the people who are in power, who are in charge of bringing these girls back and of keeping Nigerian children safe, if you feel that they are empathetic or if they are tapped into the gravity of the situation?
I think that what keeps me going, as I said, is a bit of sheer bloody-mindedness, and also proximity. If nobody else can turn up, I don't really have an excuse because I can walk to stand in that gap. But I think that, and we've seen different people taking different aspects. There was the exhibition at Eco Hotel of the terracotta heads of the. It was so powerful, so moving. There was a time when the Abuja family brought out pairs of shoes. There was a time when they set desks to show empty desks to show children deprived of their education. We had Grace, who is one of the girls who was returned after the government, the Buhari administration, were able to bring them back. And, we recognize, even from interacting with Grace, that it's not just a matter of you come back, government pays for education and everything is rosy. It's not rosy at all. And so I think that I don't expect government to wear their hearts on their sleeve. And quite frankly, if I were to see government out there weeping, I would not be impressed. In fact, I would be annoyed because I would feel, but you are the one who holds the knife and the yam. What is it that, at least you hold the knife and the cooking fire. So you should be able to set about getting the yam from the hand of the person who has taken it. So I wouldn't necessarily find it. But it's not a matter of displaying education. It's a matter of what are you doing? It's not just receiving people and making statements. It's a matter of what are you doing? Now, I appreciate, yes, the government, what it's doing is it's equipping the armed forces so that they can go after the terrorists. But even when you're going after the terrorists, because not all of these girls are even kept inside Nigeria. Some of them are kept outside Nigeria. So there are many angles to it. There has to be negotiation. But at the end of the day, if there is a pretense that it's not the... there are the priorities. And one thing I will say is that no government now sits down and looks at mass kidnapping of children from schools and says, oh gosh, that's a shame, move on. They now all know that, we better quickly get these children back before another bring back our girls gets on our neck. On the other hand, maybe they're hardened. Maybe by continuing to turn out every week, they say, oh, they're still there. You know, and we could see that they got, just as the previous administration at the time of the kidnapping started to see political enemies, when Dr. Obi Ezekwesili, who is a leading participant, or one of the conveners of the group, they said, so it became a matter of, she's a problem to us because she's opposing our government, and all these things. I mean, the idea that people are taking money to do this or do that. I mean, we actually support the movement with our own funds because it is just a movement. When we try to contribute, when we even if it's in person, even, you know, if you were to come to us in Falomo, you would see that many of our participants, they are ordinary workers. Some of them are street sweepers in Lagos. And even for today's specific event, which we are holding at the Lagos Ferry Terminal today at 2:00, they said that we know that our funds may not make the big difference, but each one of us is going to put something in so that we can all feel that we're still part of this. And they did. They contributed. They all contributed because they feel too that this is not something that, I think we all see ourselves in one way or the other, that if we're not a big man, we could find ourselves like this. And you'd be surprised how small people become when you can't solve their problem. You know, when you can't solve their problem, even a big man starts to shrink, and they say, can't see him. And this is what we don't want to happen. We want to continue to see our Chibok girls. It's not about us. It's not about whether Michelle Obama, it's about the girls. It's about the kidnapped children. And that, to me, is the important part of it.
All right. I'd like you to look at maybe a positive aspect of this whole thing, you know, in 10 years. Watching the video of Dina that we saw, who's now a PhD, you know, student in the United States, you know, the mode of dressing, wearing trousers. It looks to me like she's basically saying that I am free now. Mm-hmm. I have education. There are more than 100 of them who have gone, you know, through different trainings, American University, in Yola. Do you think that this constitutes a kind of moral, psychological, and sociological victory against what Boko Haram stands for?
Well, I must say that unfortunately I didn't necessarily see all of it because I was in church. But let me say that, of course, it is a big rebuttal to the concept of saying that that nobody should have education, and particularly girls should not have education. So what can I say? I think that every one of them that continues with their, and that's why we say we want to bring them back educationally to where they should have been if their lives had not been rudely interrupted and fractured by this. And I just want to see more of them. That's what I would say. I just want to see more of them coming out on top, coming out ahead of the tragedy that overtook them.
All right. Thank you so very much, Ms. Ayo Obe. And I hope that we can look in at 2 p.m. today in Ikoyi. All right. Thank you indeed.
Ferry terminal.
All right, ferry terminal. Okay.